To the person with only a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? Well, I'm not talking about expanding your clinical procedural skills here, or social media, or even teamwork. What I want to talk about today is our decision-making in emergencies. Because the decisions you make, right, that determines the actions that you take. Now, I was told to build a little bit of science into this, so here comes the snail. There's recently been a mind-blowing publication on complex decision-making. Believe it or not, the freshwater snail uses all of its brain, both cells, to find food. Then it decides, am I hungry? If it's hungry, it will eat the food. If it's not hungry, it will dial back its metabolism so that it can conserve its energy. Now, emergencies seldom happens at a snail's pace, right? It's dynamic. And it is advised that you use more than 2 brain cells. In fact, I would implore you to use all of your tools, all of your ability to make decisions. No, doctor. There is a protocol for dealing with these things. There is an algorithm. Just follow the algorithm, tick the boxes, stop thinking, and everything will be fine. Well, that's not really how humans operate. And I'll put it to you, if that is how I'm supposed to deal with an emergency, then they'll have to give me a hemispherical lobectomy. Well, it doesn't sound very data-driven, does it? And you might be thinking like this guy, data. You need the data, otherwise it's just an opinion. Let's be fair, what else is a data analyst gonna say, right? Well, you might be a little bit more like this guy, who knows that all the numbers and the data doesn't always add up, especially in a very information-light environment that rapidly keeps on changing. But let's be fair, what else is a genius gonna say? So let's dust off some of these tools in your toolbox of decision-making. And let's play a couple of games. First one, everybody in the audience, you have to solve this problem for me. You'll have 10 seconds. Gray fox, 60 centimeters in length, weighing 3.8 kilograms, run into a forest in a straight line. How far does the fox run into the forest? 10 seconds. Come on, thinking. Time's running out, clock is ticking. Any moment now. Anyone? Good job. So, some of you might have gone like, I need more information. At least I need the width of his strides. I need to know his pace. I need to know how big the forest is. Or you might have gone, I don't know. Or honestly, I don't care. Or the bright sparks here knew halfway, because if he runs in a straight line, he runs halfway into the forest before he starts running out of the forest, right? Okay, good. Here's another one. Please count all of the black dots for me. So where's all the bright sparks now? No? Okay, fair enough. This is an impossible problem. And if you really want to know why all the black dots disappear, please go online and Google it. Oh, is this working? No. Okay, so anyway. So the answers to these questions aren't really important. But what I want you to realize is that although initially your brain thought it might need to fix an analytical problem, there was all sorts of random information that your brain was processing all the way during the time. So I hope the volume is loud enough, because we've been recording some of your thoughts. And this is what some of you are thinking.
I hope there's a prize for getting it right.
What does this have to do with medicine?
Is she trying to trick me?
Yes.
What will I wear to the smack party tonight?
And I think that was about 90% of you. You see, although your brain really occasionally tries to look at the numbers and try the analytical approach, the other hemisphere is having a mental meltdown, trying to make associations. Some of you, even though the sound was a little bit soft, might have picked up there was a BBC theme song in the countdown. So your brain is amazing, and we try and keep on developing these equipment and things to just produce data. But your intrinsic computer is fantastic, and it shouldn't be ignored. And very often, it gets a really bad rap for, human error, human factors, just eliminate the human from the decision-making and everything will be fine. However, that is not what it's supposed to be like. You have to embrace your whole toolbox when you make decisions. Yes, medical decisions, especially in an emergency that is very time critical and where things keep moving and changing, is difficult. But you have to be adaptive, you have to be flexible, and you have to have multidimensional thinking. So let's go to a real-life scenario. You are a critical care team. And this time, you're working in the pre-hospital environment. This could be any environment. You are called out to a stabbing, a chest stabbing, 5 kilometers from the hospital. Believe it or not, your decision-making starts right here. How are you gonna go? Are you gonna fly? It's only 5 minutes away, surely not. Or are you gonna drive? Well, it might only be 5 minutes away, but there might be other factors. Are there roadworks? What time of the day is it, etc., etc. Or, in most of the places you'd go like, why even go? Surely there's a paramedic crew on scene and they can just scoop and run, load and glow. It is 5 minutes away. Okay, most of us would probably say, see, let's just, scoop and run. But this team has specifically requested an interventional critical care pre-hospital team attend the scene. So you're already primed. This is the one. This is going to be my thoracotomy. Yes. So you and your team, you're ready. You've got all your equipment with you. On the way there, you only have 5 minutes. You quickly go like, okay, so you're going to take the airway. I'm going to take the scalpel. We're just going to get on. This is going to be awesome. We're going to get a badge. It's going to be, great. So, but you'll see, it's not always that easy, and that is not always what you should do. The patient is on the 3rd floor. There are no elevators to the 3rd floor. It's a very, very tiny little room. And this is essentially what you see. There's a small room filled with 2 paramedics and all of their bags, and a very sick young man lying on the floor. Paramedics have applied a chest seal. You can see there's clearly blood coming through. They've also applied a saturation probe as well as a blood pressure cuff. That is just cycling. The patient looks awful. He looks peri-arrest. He's barely conscious. You do a quick sternal rub, and he essentially goes, ugh. Now, what do you do? Do you stay, or do you go? You have a few options here, right? First, you can diagnose a little bit more. You can get out your ultrasound, you can do your lung slides, you can do your views, you can get out your iStat machine, quickly get a base excess or a hemoglobin, you can get your Rotem and send it to the hospital, you can get out your stethoscope. You're still stuck in a tiny room 5 minutes from hospital with someone with a chest stabbing. Or you can feel very uncomfortable with his situation, and you can stabilize a little bit more. So you find another vein, put in an IV, you run through your blood transfusion, or you draw up your vasopressor. You're still stuck in a little room, 5 minutes from the hospital. That's not gonna stop him from bleeding. Or you might go, right, I see the problem, chest stabbing, he needs a thoracotomy. Well, actually, he's semi-conscious, so GCS less than 8, let's intubate. That's what the protocol would say. If you intubate him, he's definitely gonna arrest, and then you commit him to a pre-hospital thoracotomy. I want to put it to you, you are still in a tiny little room on the 3rd floor without an elevator, now with someone with an open chest or a ventilator connected to them. But you might decide you want to move. Oh, who wants to move? Anyone? Anyone? Yeah. So you try to sit the patient up because he needs to get onto a carry chair. Every time you sit him up, his pupils dilate. And he goes like, and he essentially looks like he's arresting right in front of you. Lie him down, lie him down, lie him down. You lie him down, he goes, Still no SATs, no blood pressure. There are no specialist rescue equipment available. What do? Do you stay, revert back to another plan, or do you go? Right, so you and your team decide, listen, we just have to go. This is an uncomfortable space we're in with an uncomfortable patient. Maybe we can just improve one of these, get him to a slightly bigger space. So our goal now is just to get him downstairs without having him arrest. Downstairs, we'll evaluate again. So these are the stairs you're going to navigate with this patient, now on a blanket, and you decide, head down, because that seemed to be his preferred position. So you drag him down these very scary stairs, all the way down, carrying your thoracotomy kit, and your pre-hospital blood. You go, ooh. Okay, you reach the bottom of the stairs. Patient still hasn't arrested. You do sternal rub. You're now in a better environment, right? He's still GCS less than 8, you still don't have a blood pressure, still very uncomfortable. What do? Do you stay or do you go? Go. Right, so you decide, well, we made it this far. Hospital is still only 5 minutes away. Which now actually becomes a problem, because the hospital is only 5 minutes away. You are now on the phone telling them, we're coming in with a patient, with peri-arrest, with a chest stabbing, who needs a thoracotomy now. Get the team there. So you can see how you convert this problem to just a different environment. But, and you have like maybe 1 blood pressure in the back of the ambulance, 51 with 33. You offload the patient, feel for a pulse, barely there, but you made it. Hopefully, they're just going to sort of get him to the trauma bay, go like, we feel a pulse, let's get him to the OR. So you push him into the trauma bay. Oh, half the team is there. Great. And the anesthetist has a big syringe full of propofol. So you have 2 options here. You can either hand over your patient and step away, or you can offer your ketamine or suggest they do it in the OR. But they go ahead, they do an RSI, lo and behold, your patient arrests right there. And they have to open the chest. The surgeon arrives still in his civilian clothes. He's drenched in blood, and your patient gets internal cardiac massage. 10 minutes later, they've got some sort of output. And the last view you have of your patient is as he disappears down the road, down the corridor, on his way to the OR with a blood trail behind him. Now you can see how these decisions aren't easy and how they're dynamic, and that there's no linear protocol that you can follow to do this, right? It is more like untangling a ball of yarn. And you might go, well, this is why protocols are there. But they're not there for these type of situations. Novices enjoy following protocols because it's a safety net, but it does become sort of a shackles in a difficult situation. Because experience is important. And as you move from being a novice to an experienced practitioner, you develop the skills to think around the problem because you know why the rules are there. This is called naturalistic decision-making, and at least I have no time to go into this, but feel free to look at it. It's about using your whole mind to make decisions, using your whole toolbox. So it's not about using your guts or your gadgets, or your prayers or your protocols, or training or tricks. It's about using all of it. So you need to use your instinct. I just knew this problem could not be fixed where we were. I had the skills, but this was not the time to use it. I love gadgets. I'm an anesthetist, come on. But this was not the time and the place to try and find the serum rhubarb. What I talk about prayers, I actually refer to emotions and your motivation. You always have to check your motivation. We were primed. I'm not scalpel shy, and I can tell you, I was ready to do a thoracotomy. But in that tiny room, that would have not been the right decision. And protocols are there, but they're only the skeleton from which the rest of the decision-making flesh dangles. You have to train. And even if you know how to do a procedure, only because you can doesn't mean you should. And sometimes you have to use some tricks. There's no book that says put someone on a blanket and drag them downstairs to just get them there alive. Most of the books would say, the protocol would say, yeah, RSI, give him some blood, stabilize, then transfer. And on reflection, when we landed our patient off, as he was disappearing in a trail of blood, the trauma team leader did turn to us and go like, see that chaos? You guys should have just done it in the field. You should have just RSI'd and do the thoracotomy. And we left there deflated, depressed. Did we do the right thing? Should we just have followed, the standard, knowing that giving him an RSI would have put him in a rest, and then you have to do a thoracotomy if you can. We've got the kit, right? However, the only thing that taught me is to never be like that to a team bringing a patient in. There are emotions attached to it, and it's difficult decision-making. But I want to implore you to use all the tools, the guts, gadgets, prayers, protocols, training, and tricks to make these difficult decisions in difficult environments. And on the day, it did pay off. I went to the ICU 3 days later to go and check on my patient. Still very troubled by what that trauma team leader said to us. Did we do the right thing? Should we have just cracked on with it? So I walked into ICU expecting my patient to be on life support, with multi-organ failure, hypoxic brain injury, at best, maybe an organ donor. And I said, hi, I'm Dr. So-and-so, where's my patient? And they said, oh, he's in bed too. So I walked in, and to my surprise, there was a young man sitting, extubated, fully awake, on a chair, with surgical clips from year to year, after having survived 2 lacerations to his IVC, 2 lacerations to his ventricle, and a left lower lobe laceration. And he was sitting there drinking water from a straw. And, my heart filled with joy, and my eyes filled with tears. So use all your skills, and don't let them get you down.
Thank you very much, MJ. We have got time for a question.
Yeah, I think, MJ, everyone loved that you're an anesthetist who doesn't love protocols, so that was refreshing. How do you deal when the higher-ups want you to subscribe to protocols you don't believe in?
Yeah, the caveat here is if you are going to go down the route of naturalistic decision-making, you get better at it the more you become an expert. So, like I said, the protocols really form the baseline of your decision-making, but it doesn't account for all of the factors. So it's not about ignoring it, it's about using it as really the basis from which you then navigate. Like Ronaldo, in soccer, he doesn't ignore the rules of soccer, but, he can improvise and he can work, and you wouldn't expect him to just do a diagonal, right? So I think it is important to have that as your baseline. And I think we have to change the culture as well, because like Chris Hicks said, you have to sim these things. You have to build it into your sim. And we have to stop failing people just for not doing a practical procedure, right? How many of us have failed someone in an ATLS scenario for not putting in a chest tube? Rather than working around why did they think this patient at this time didn't need a chest tube, and addressing that rather than just, fail, he didn't do the clinical procedure.
Excellent. That's great clarification.
Excellent. Another round of applause for MJ. Thank you very much.